December 1st, 1946, 10:47 a.m. Lucky Luciano stepped off the SS Laura Keene at New York Harbor after 10 years of exile. The most powerful mobster in American history had finally returned home. First man to greet him wasn't family, wasn't the commission. It was Vito Genovese, smiling like a shark that smelled blood in the water. "Welcome back, Charlie," Genovese said, using Lucky's real name. "We need to talk about Harlem." Within 3 hours, Lucky sat at the head of a table with the 5 families: Vito Genovese, Frank Costello, Joe Bonanno, Carlo Gambino, Tommy Lucchese, the most dangerous men in America, all waiting to hear what Lucky Luciano wanted. Lucky lit a cigarette, let the smoke curl toward the ceiling of the restaurant in Little Italy, and said 4 words that would change everything. "Zul, I want Harlem back." The table went quiet. Frank Costello shifted uncomfortably. "Charlie, Harlem's different now. It's not like when you left. There's a man there." "Bumpy Johnson," Lucky interrupted. "I know who he is. I know he controls the numbers racket. I know he's got the respect of every black family from 110th Street to 155th. I know all of it." "Then you know he's not going to just hand it over," Costello said carefully. Lucky smiled. Cold, empty, the smile of a man who'd ordered 100 deaths and never lost sleep over one. "I'm not asking him to hand it over. I'm taking it. And he's got 48 hours to leave New York, or I'll kill everyone he loves." Genovese grinned. "Now that's the Lucky I remember." But what Lucky Luciano didn't know, what nobody at that table knew, was that 48 hours later, he wouldn't be taking over Harlem. He'd be on his knees, begging for mercy, from the one man in New York who'd never feared him. To understand what happened in those 48 hours, you need to understand who Lucky Luciano was in 1946. He wasn't just another gangster. He was the gangster. The man who'd created modern organized crime. Born Salvatore Lucania in Sicily, came to New York at age 9, built an empire by age 30. He'd survived a throat slashing that should have killed him. The scar across his neck was his trademark. He'd murdered Joe, the boss Masseria, to end the Castellamarese War. He'd killed Salvatore Maranzano to create the Commission, the ruling body of the American Mafia. He'd controlled prostitution, gambling, drugs, labor unions, politicians, judges. He was untouchable until 1936, when prosecutor Thomas Dewey sent him to prison on prostitution charges, 30 to 50 years. During World War II, Lucky made a deal with the U.S. Navy, help protect the docks from Nazi sabotage, and they'd reduce his sentence. Lucky kept his word. The Navy kept theirs, sort of. They commuted his sentence in 1946, but deported him to Italy immediately. Lucky had spent 10 years in exile, watching his empire from across the ocean, planning his return. Now he was back, and the first thing he wanted was Harlem, the richest untapped territory in New York. The numbers racket alone pulled in $10 million a year. And one man controlled it all: Bumpy Johnson. Lucky had sent word through proper channels, a messenger to deliver the message personally to Bumpy at Small's Paradise. The messenger was a kid named Paulie, 22 years old, trying to prove himself to the families. Paulie walked into Small's at noon on December 1st. The jazz band was playing. People were drinking. Laughter filled the air. Paulie approached Bumpy's table in the corner, where Bumpy always sat, back to the wall, eyes on every entrance. Mr. Johnson, I've got a message from Lucky Luciano. Bumpy didn't look up from his plate of collard greens and cornbread. I'm eating. Come back later. Sir, Mr. Luciano said it's urgent. And I said I'm eating. Paulie hesitated, then made a mistake. He grabbed Bumpy's shoulder. What happened next took 3 seconds. Bumpy's hand shot up, grabbed Paulie's wrist, twisted. Bone cracked. Paulie screamed. Bumpy's other hand shot across the table, grabbed a butter knife, pressed it against Paulie's throat. The jazz band stopped playing. Every person in Smalls turned to watch. Bumpy looked up at Paulie for the first time. Calm, cold, dangerous. Now, deliver your message. Slowly. Paulie, crying from the pain in his broken wrist, stammered. Lucky Luciano says, you've got 48 hours to leave New York, or he'll kill everyone you love, your wife, your mother, your friends, everyone. Bumpy let go of Paulie's wrist. Paulie collapsed to his knees, cradling his broken arm. Tell Lucky Luciano, Bumpy said quietly, that if he wants Harlem, he can come take it himself, but he better bring more than broken boys with broken threats. Bumpy went back to eating. Paulie stumbled out and the jazz band started playing again. December 1st, 3:47 p.m. Bumpy sat in his office above Small's Paradise with his 3 most trusted men, Illinois Gordon, Junie Bird, and Nat Pettigrew. Boss, Illinois said carefully, this is Lucky Luciano. We can't fight the 5 families. We don't have the manpower. We don't have the guns. We don't need guns, Bumpy interrupted. Then what do we need? Bumpy smiled. Information. He turned to Nat Pettigrew, a former NYPD detective who'd been kicked off the force for being too honest, now worked for Bumpy tracking people. Nat, I need you to find out everything about Lucky Luciano's family. Parents, siblings, cousins, everyone. I need addresses, jobs, routines. I need to know who Lucky loves, and I need it in 12 hours. Boss, Lucky's family is all in Italy. Not all of them, Bumpy said quietly. There's someone here, someone he's been hiding for a very long time. Find her. The 3 men looked confused. Her? Junie asked, but Bumpy didn't elaborate. He just said, 12 hours, go. December the 2nd, 3:15 a.m. A black Cadillac pulled up outside a brownstone apartment building in Greenwich Village, one of the few integrated neighborhoods in 1946 New York. Illinois. Gordon stepped out with 3 men. They walked up to apartment 4B. Illinois knocked, gentle, not aggressive. A woman's voice called from inside. Who is it? Ma'am, my name is Illinois Gordon. I work for Bumpy Johnson. We need to talk to you about Lucky Luciano. Silence. Then the door opened a crack, chain still latched. A black woman in her 40s, beautiful even with exhaustion in her eyes, peered out. Josephine Moretti. I don't know anyone named Lucky Luciano, she said. Ma'am, with all due respect, we know you do, and we know about your daughter. Josephine's face went pale. We're not here to hurt you or her, Illinois said gently. We're here because Lucky Luciano just threatened to kill everyone Bumpy Johnson loves, and Bumpy doesn't take threats lightly, but he also doesn't hurt innocent people. So I'm asking you, is your daughter home? Josephine's hands shook as she undid the chain. Please, she whispered. Please don't hurt her. She doesn't know. She doesn't know who her father is. I never told her. We're not going to hurt her, ma'am, but we do need her to come with us, just for a little while, until this is over." From deeper in the apartment, a young woman's voice called out, "Mama, who's at the door?" And then she appeared. Isabella Moretti. 19 years old. NYU student. Light brown skin, dark curly hair, sharp, intelligent eyes. She looked at Illinois and his men with confusion, then fear. "Mama, who are these people?" Josephine turned to her daughter, tears streaming down her face. "Baby, I'm so sorry. There's something I never told you about your father." December 2nd, 4:30 a.m. Isabella sat in the back of Bumpy Johnson's office, hands shaking, staring at the photograph on the desk in front of her. The photograph was 20 years old, faded but clear. A young white man in an expensive suit standing with his arm around a beautiful black woman in a jazz club. The woman was her mother, Josephine, young, radiant, in love. The man was smiling in a way that looked almost human. The man was Lucky Luciano. "That's not my father," Isabella said, voice hollow. "My father died in the war. My mother told me." "Your mother lied," Bumpy said, not unkindly. He sat across from her, hands folded, voice gentle but firm. "She lied because she had to. Because if anyone knew that Lucky Luciano, the most powerful white mobster in America, had a black daughter, it would destroy his career. And the people he worked with would kill all three of you to keep the secret." Isabella looked at her mother, who sat beside her crying silently. "Mamas, is this true?" Josephine nodded, unable to speak. "I met Lucky in 1926. She finally said. "I was singing at the Cotton Club. He came every night for a month just to watch me. Then one night he waited after the show and asked if he could buy me dinner. I said yes, and for 2 years, we were happy. He loved me," Josephine continued, voice breaking. "I know that sounds impossible. I know what kind of man he was, what he did, who he hurt. But with me, he was different. He was kind. He was gentle. He wanted to marry me." "Then why didn't he?" Isabella asked, anger creeping into her voice. "Because the commission, the men who ran the Mafia, told him he couldn't," Bumpy said. "They told him that marrying a black woman would make him look weak, and in their world, looking weak gets you killed." Josephine wiped her eyes. "When I got pregnant with you, Lucky wanted to leave. He wanted to run away with us, somewhere far from New York, somewhere we could be a family. But I told him no. I told him that if he left, they'd hunt us down and kill all three of us. So I made him promise, stay in New York, keep his power, and send money every month to take care of you. And he did. Every month for 19 years, he sent $500. Isabella stared at the photograph, at the man who was her father, the man she'd never known existed. "Why are you telling me this now?" she asked Bumpy. Bumpy leaned forward. "Because Lucky Luciano just threatened to kill everyone I love, and I don't take threats lightly, but I also don't hurt innocent people. So I'm not going to hurt you, Isabella. I'm going to protect you." "Protect me from what?" "From Lucky's own men." Isabella's eyes widened. "Right now," Bumpy continued, "Lucky doesn't know I have you, but in a few hours he will. And when he finds out, he's going to panic. And when powerful men panic, they make bad decisions. Some of Lucky's men, the ones who want his power, are going to suggest killing you to eliminate the scandal. And Lucky might be forced to agree to keep his position. So you kidnapped me to save me? I kidnapped you to save both of us, Bumpy said honestly. Because as long as I have you safe, Lucky can't risk coming after me. And as long as Lucky wants you alive, he'll have to negotiate, which means nobody has to die. Isabella looked at her mother, then back at Bumpy. And what do you want from him? Bumpy smiled. I want him to leave Harlem alone, forever. And I want him to do something he's never done before. What? I want him to be your father. December 2nd, 8:47 a.m. Lucky Luciano sat in his suite at the Waldorf Astoria, smoking his 5th cigarette of the morning, when the phone rang. Yeah? Boss, it's Tony. We've got a problem. What kind of problem? It's about Josephine. Lucky's hand froze mid-drag. That name. He hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in 19 years. What about her? Lucky's voice was ice. She's missing, and so is her daughter. Lucky stood up so fast the chair fell backward. What do you mean missing? Her apartment's empty. Neighbors say 4 black men came at 3 this morning and took them both. No struggle. They left voluntarily. Lucky's mind raced. Only a handful of people knew about Josephine. Only 2 people knew about Isabella. And if someone had taken them, Bumpy Johnson, Lucky said quietly. Boss? It's Bumpy fucking Johnson. He took them. He knows. Tony's voice went quiet. Boss, if Bumpy knows about the girl, if he has proof, then the commission will vote me out, and Genovese will put a bullet in my head before sunset. Lucky finished. He sat back down, cigarette shaking in his hand. For the first time in 30 years, Lucky Luciano was scared. Not for himself. For Isabella. The daughter he'd never met but had watched from a distance her entire life. The girl he'd paid for, dance lessons, school uniforms, college tuition, without her ever knowing. The only good thing he'd ever created in his miserable, blood-soaked life. Get me Costello, Lucky said, and Genovese, and my top 3 men. We're going to get her back. Boss, what if Bumpy's already... He hasn't hurt her, Lucky interrupted. Bumpy Johnson doesn't hurt civilians. He's not like us. That's why everyone in Harlem would die for him, and nobody in our world trusts each other. Lucky stubbed out his cigarette. Set up a meeting, neutral ground. Tell Bumpy I want to negotiate. December 2nd, 2:30 p.m. The phone in Bumpy's office rang. He picked up. Mr. Johnson, this is Frank Costello. Lucky Luciano would like to meet with you to discuss terms. Terms for what? For the safe return of Isabella Moretti. Bumpy smiled. I'm listening. Neutral location, tonight. Abyssinian Baptist Church. Adam Clayton Powell's church. Just you and Lucky. No guns, no men. Just a conversation. And if I say no? Costello's voice went cold. Then Lucky will burn Harlem to the ground to get his daughter back, and a lot of innocent people will die. Is that what you want? Bumpy was quiet for a moment. Then, 11:30 tonight, Powell's church. I'll be there. Lucky will be there too. One more thing, Mr. Costello. What? Tell Lucky to bring a checkbook, because if he wants his daughter back, it's going to cost him. Bumpy hung up. December 2nd, 11:27 p.m. Abyssinian Baptist Church was empty, except for 2 men. Lucky Luciano sat in the front pew, fedora resting beside him, hands folded like he was praying. He wasn't. He was just waiting. The church doors opened. Bumpy Johnson walked in, alone, just as agreed, and sat down in the pew across the aisle. For a long moment, neither man spoke. They just looked at each other. Two legends, two kings of different worlds, sitting in God's house at midnight. Finally, Lucky broke the silence. "Where is she?" "Safe." "Did you hurt her?" "No, and I won't. That's not how I do business." Lucky nodded slowly. "What do you want?" Bumpy turned to face him fully. "3 things. Name them. First, you leave Harlem alone. Forever. You tell the commission it's off limits. No numbers, no drugs, no prostitution, no nothing. Harlem stays independent." Lucky's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Done. What else?" "Second, you pay $500,000. Lucky's eyes narrowed. "That's a lot of money. Not to you, and it's not for me." "Then who's it for?" "Josephine's medical bills, and Isabella's education. Josephine's got cancer. Late stage. She's got maybe 6 months. Hospital won't treat her properly because she's black and poor. That money pays for the best doctors in New York, and whatever's left goes into a trust fund for Isabella. College, law school, whatever she needs." Lucky's face went pale. "Josephine's dying? You didn't know?" Lucky shook his head, and for the first time, Bumpy saw something in the old gangster's eyes he'd never expected. Tears. "I haven't seen her in 19 years, Lucky said quietly. "I wanted to. Every day I wanted to. But I couldn't risk it. If the commission found out, they'd kill all 3 of us. So you chose power over family. I chose survival," Lucky said sharply, "and I've regretted it every goddamn day." Bumpy was quiet. Then, "You said you wanted to be different with her, with Josephine, that you loved her." "I did. I do." "Then prove it." "How?" "That's my 3rd demand," Bumpy said. "You tell Isabella the truth. You sit down with your daughter, your 19-year-old daughter who just found out her entire life is a lie. And you tell her who you are, what you did, and why you did it. You don't lie. You don't make excuses. You just tell her the truth. And whatever she decides, whether she forgives you or hates you, you accept it." Lucky stared at Bumpy for a long time. "And if I do all 3, you'll keep the secret? You won't go to the press? I'll burn the photographs. Nobody will ever know Isabella is your daughter unless you tell them." Lucky stood up, walked to the altar, and looked up at the cross hanging above it. He'd killed men. He'd destroyed families. He'd built an empire on blood and fear. And now he was being asked to do the one thing he'd never done. Be a father. "Where is she?" Lucky asked. Bumpy stood, walked to the church doors, and opened them. Standing outside in the cold December night was Isabella Moretti. Lucky Luciano looked at his daughter for the first time in her life. She looked back at the father she'd never known existed, and for a moment, the most powerful mobster in American history didn't know what to say. Isabella spoke first. "Are you really my father?" Lucky nodded, unable to speak. "Did you love my mother?" "Yes." "Then why did you leave us?" Lucky's voice broke. "Because I was a coward, and I'm sorry." December 3rd, 2:15 a.m. Lucky Luciano walked into St. Vincent's Hospital for the first time in 19 years. He walked past the front desk, ignored the nurse who tried to stop him, and went straight to room 412. Inside, lying in a hospital bed, pale and thin and dying, was Josephine Moretti. She looked up when the door opened, saw Lucky standing there, and started crying. Charlie. Lucky crossed the room in 3 steps, fell to his knees beside her bed, and took her hand. "I'm sorry. God, Joe, I'm so sorry." "Why are you here?" she whispered. "Because I should have been here 19 years ago. Because I should have chosen you over everything else. Because I've spent every day since regretting that I didn't." "It's too late, Charlie. I'm dying." "I know, but I'm not going to let you die alone. And I'm not going to let Isabella grow up thinking her father didn't love her." Josephine squeezed his hand weakly. "You promise you'll take care of her?" "I promise. She doesn't forgive you, you know. Not yet. Maybe not ever." "I know, but I'm going to try. Every day, I'm going to try to be the father I should have been." Josephine closed her eyes, a small smile on her lips. "That's all I ever wanted to hear." They sat in silence for a long time. Lucky holding Josephine's hand, the woman he'd loved and abandoned, the woman who'd given him the only good thing in his life. Finally, Josephine said, "Tell me about Italy. Tell me what it's like." And Lucky did. He told her about the Mediterranean sunsets, the vineyards, the small villages where nobody knew his name. He told her about the life he'd lived in exile, the loneliness, the regret, the endless nights staring at old photographs and wondering what could have been. And as he talked, Josephine fell asleep, still holding his hand. Lucky stayed there until morning. December 3rd, 9 a.m. Lucky Luciano called an emergency meeting of the commission. Vito Genovese, Frank Costello, Joe Bonanno, Carlo Gambino, Tommy Lucchese, all gathered in the back room of Rossi's Italian restaurant. "Gentlemen," Lucky said, standing at the head of the table, "I've made a decision about Harlem." Genovese leaned forward eagerly. "We're moving in?" "No, Harlem stays independent." The table erupted. "What? Charlie, you can't be serious. That's $10 million a year." Lucky slammed his hand on the table. "Harlem stays independent." The room went quiet. "Bumpy Johnson has something on me," Lucky said carefully. "Something that could destroy not just me, but all of us. If we push him, he'll release it, and we'll all go down." Genovese narrowed his eyes. "What does he have?" Lucky smiled coldly. "That's between me and Bumpy, but trust me when I say, we're better off leaving Harlem alone. Bumpy's more valuable as an ally than an enemy." Costello nodded slowly. "If Lucky says leave it alone, we leave it alone." Genovese looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't, because even Vito Genovese knew. You don't question Lucky Luciano. December 4th, 1 p.m. Isabella Moretti sat across from Lucky Luciano in a small cafe in Greenwich Village. It was the first time they'd been alone together. The first time Lucky had ever tried to be a father. "I don't know how to do this," Lucky admitted. I'm not good at this." "At what?" "Being human." Isabella almost smiled. "You're doing better than I expected. Your mother's running out of time," Lucky said quietly. "The doctors say maybe 2 months, maybe less." Isabella looked down at her coffee. "I know. I've arranged for the best doctors in New York to see her, and I've set up a trust fund for you, enough to finish NYU, go to law school if you want, whatever you need." I don't want your money. I know, but I'm giving it to you anyway, because it's the only thing I can give you." Isabella looked up at him. This man, this stranger, this father. "Why did you really leave us?" Lucky was quiet for a long time. Then, "Because I was afraid. I'd killed men. I'd destroyed families. I'd built an empire on blood. And when I looked at your mother, at the life we could have had, I realized I couldn't have both. I couldn't be the man she deserved and still be Lucky Luciano. So I chose power. And I've paid for that choice every day since. Do you regret it? Every second of every day." Isabella was silent. Then, "I don't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I don't expect you to. But," Isabella hesitated, "but if you're serious about trying, about being a father, I'll give you a chance, for Mama's sake." Lucky nodded, unable to speak. "One chance," Isabella said firmly. "You mess this up, you're gone forever." "One chance," Lucky agreed. "That's all I'm asking for." Oh, January 15th, 1947. Josephine Moretti died peacefully in her sleep at St. Vincent's Hospital. Isabella was holding her hand. So was Lucky Luciano. At the funeral, only 12 people attended. All close friends, all sworn to secrecy. Isabella stood at the front, reading a poem her mother had loved. Lucky stood in the back, fedora in his hands, crying silently. After the service, Isabella walked over to him. "Thank you for being there," at the end. It meant everything to her. "It meant everything to me." Isabella looked at this man, this father she barely knew, and made a decision. "I'm going to law school, Columbia. I'm going to become a civil rights attorney. Fight for people who don't have power." Lucky smiled, genuine, proud. "Your mother would have loved that. Will you—" Isabella hesitated. "Will you visit when you can?" Lucky's voice broke. "Every chance I get." February 9th, 1947. Lucky Luciano left New York for the final time. The U.S. government had discovered he'd secretly returned despite his deportation order. He had 48 hours to leave or face arrest. On his last night, Lucky met Isabella at the same cafe in Greenwich Village. "I have to go back to Italy," Lucky said. "I can't come back, not ever." Isabella nodded, tears in her eyes. "I know, but I'll write every month, and I'll send money for school." "I don't want your money anymore," Isabella interrupted. "I want letters. I want to know who you are. I want to know my father." Lucky's hands shook as he took hers. "You're the best thing I ever did. You know that? Mama was the best thing you ever did. I'm just what happened when you loved someone more than power, even if it was only for 2 years." Lucky smiled through tears. 2 years, that's all I got, and it was worth more than the other 50. They hugged, father and daughter, for the first and last time. The next morning, Lucky Luciano boarded a ship to Italy. He would never see America again. January 26th, 1962. Lucky Luciano died of a heart attack at Naples Airport in Italy. He was 64 years old. The most powerful mobster in American history died alone. No family, no friends, just airport security, wondering who this old man was. But that's not entirely true. At his funeral in Naples, one person came from America, a woman, 34 years old, a civil rights attorney who just won a major case desegregating schools in Mississippi, Isabella Moretti. She stood at Lucky's grave after everyone else had left, placed a single white rose on the coffin, and whispered, "Thank you for trying, Papa. It wasn't enough, but it was something." She walked away and never spoke of Lucky Luciano again. December 5th, 1946. Bumpy Johnson sat in his office, holding the photographs of Lucky and Josephine. Illinois. Gordon stood by the door. "Boss, you really gonna burn those photos like you promised?" Bumpy looked at the pictures. Evidence that could have destroyed the most powerful mobster in America. Evidence he'd promised to destroy. He walked to the fireplace, dropped the photos in, watched them burn. "A man's only as good as his word," Bumpy said. "I told Lucky I'd burn them, so I burned them." "And Harlem? Harlem stays ours, forever. Lucky made sure of that." Illinois smiled. "You think he'll really stay away?" Bumpy looked out the window at the Harlem streets. Streets, his people, his home. "He will, because now he's got something more important than power." "What's that?" "A daughter who might actually forgive him." Lucky Luciano kept his word. For the rest of his life, he never touched Harlem. He told the commission it was forbidden territory, and anyone who violated that order answered to him. Isabella Moretti became one of the most important civil rights attorneys of the 1960s. She never publicly acknowledged who her father was, but every year on Lucky's birthday, she lit a candle. And every year on her mother's birthday, she visited Josephine's grave and told her about the cases she'd won. Bumpy Johnson ruled Harlem until his death in 1968. He never told anyone about Isabella, never used the secret as leverage again, because some secrets are more powerful when you keep them than when you reveal them. And in a box in Bumpy's office, hidden, locked, never opened, was one photograph he didn't burn, the one showing Lucky Luciano smiling with Josephine, the only picture in existence of Lucky Luciano looking genuinely happy. Bumpy kept it as a reminder. Even monsters can love, even powerful men can regret, and even kings can beg. December 1st, 1946. Lucky Luciano threatened to take over Harlem. Bumpy Johnson took his daughter instead, and by the end, Lucky lost his empire, but gained something he'd thrown away 19 years earlier: a chance to be a father. Some men are remembered for what they built. Lucky Luciano will be remembered for what he lost and what he found too late. I really want to know, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments. This story has reached readers on every continent, and I'm always amazed by how far these legends travel. Drop a comment, share this story. Let's talk about it. If this story of the bloodiest wedding in Harlem history hit different, drop a like and subscribe. See you in the next one.